If you love being by a big city and all the attractions but don't want the hustle and bustle of central Lisbon, then the neighborhood of Benfica might be just what the doctor ordered for you.
This area is absolutely chock full of green spaces and is known as a great place to raise a family. So we're here to see the neighborhood for ourselves and let you know what we find. I'm Kaylee.
I'm Josh, and this is Expats Everywhere, and we are back in Lisbon to break down some more of the top expat neighborhoods that you should consider living in if you're interested in Lisbon. In this video, we're going to share some important information on the neighborhood of Benfica, what the area has to offer, and if we would live here. With all of its parks, playgrounds, schools, and local cafes, Benfica feels like a small slice of suburbia in the big city.
Benfica is about a 15-minute drive to the center and also to the airport, so you can get there by driving, train, bus, and other public transportation options, which is great because this is more suburban feeling, but if you want to get downtown into the hustle and bustle, then it's really easy.
A car ride is usually the fastest way into the city center, but there are lots of buses running between other parts of Lisbon and Benfica if you don't feel like making the drive into the downtown traffic. It is also pretty easy to hop on one of these buses out to nearby cities like Sintra.
Benfica is a bit out of the way in northwestern Lisbon, but it's a great place to go for the feeling of a smaller city while still having access to Lisbon's metropolitan comforts. There are a lot of things to do right within Benfica as well, with a variety of restaurants, museums, and shopping areas located right in the neighborhood. The Colombo Shopping Center is a great example of the vast variety of amenities available in Benfica. It may not be in the heart of downtown Lisbon, but this large shopping center has everything you could need, from clothing to food to home goods and even bowling.
Hospital de Luz is also located next to the shopping center, and there are more hospitals and medical offices easily available in the surrounding neighborhoods.
Basically, anything Benfica doesn't have directly in it can easily be found within a few minutes of driving, including the zoo in neighboring São Domingos de Benfica.
Now, one thing to know about Benfica is they certainly love to support their home football team, SLB, or better yet known just as Benfica. The club stadium is known as the Stadium of Light and is the biggest stadium in Portugal, hosting not only football matches but concerts like Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift, making it a cultural center for the area.
Family-friendly areas and the number of schools in the neighborhood help make Benfica a popular choice for people with kids, as there are lots of activities around and great parks for them to play in.
There are small green spaces throughout this neighborhood with little gardens and benches to be found anywhere you go. But those aren't the main draw that brings Lisbon's more outdoorsy residents to the area.
This part of Lisbon is absolutely full of parks and other green spaces you wouldn't get in the city center, so activities such as hiking and picnicking are popular here. Benfica is home to one of the biggest parks in Lisbon, the Monsanto Forest Park, a gorgeous protected forest that is known as the lungs of the city for all the fresh air it provides.
Yep, while Benfica and its parks might not be in the center of the historic district, that does not mean the area is without the classic Lisbon charm, as there are still some pretty beautiful buildings and museum sites around. Places like the Palácio Baldaia bring the downtown Lisbon architecture right into the center of Benfica.
Porto de Benfica is one of the many historical locations in this area and is one of the only surviving entrances in the municipality of Lisbon, having been restored to its former glory and serving as a center of public transport. Currently, the Benfica Light Orchestra and the Migration Information Center are housed here as well.
Speaking of housed, the housing market here in Benfica is pretty reasonably priced in comparison to the rest of the city. This neighborhood is definitely more residential and less touristy than the areas closer to the city center and the water. So you're likely going to pay average rent or mortgage than if you were competing with the Airbnb market.
Yes. Obviously, prices for housing can vary based on how redone or fancy the place is, but an average two-bedroom apartment in this neighborhood is likely to rent for about 1,600 euros per month. This is still higher than the average would be somewhere like Porto, but is definitely lower for Lisbon standards.
Yeah, for sure. And the buying price for property in Benfica falls at about 4,400 euros per square meter, which is again higher than Porto, but lower than other areas of Lisbon. The neighborhood is seeing lots of growth in the housing sectors. People who want to live in Lisbon without breaking the bank have made this area their investment of choice.
But is Benfica really such a perfect place to live? Is it too far from the amenities of downtown? Is there enough to do here with all the parks and such? And would we be willing to move here?
Let's talk about that. Oh, before we do that, that feels better?
Much better.
Okay, so let's talk about Benfica. I mean, as many times as we say Benfica, it feels like now it's right to be wearing
Yeah,
kids.
generally when we talk about Benfica, we're talking about soccer, football.
Yeah.
Benfica versus Porto, there's that big rivalry there. So it's a bit weird. It was a bit weird to be in the neighborhood.
It was very weird to be in the neighborhood.
It's kind of like, ooh, we feel like we're cheating on Porto or something. But it's not like that at all. Because honestly, when you walk around the neighborhood, I don't think it's like oozing with the football aspect. So I think if you're not into the sport, then it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying all the time it's there. I think it's really just on game days that it gets pretty busy.
Yeah, exactly. And technically where the lines are kind of drawn for the neighborhood, it's like on the edge of the Benfica neighborhood, where the Stadium of Light, Estádio de Luz, is. So Benfica as a neighborhood, let's remove the name from it, and let's just talk very objectively, subjectively about it. Obviously, this is how we feel about it and what we see and maybe people that we talk to. It's a nice neighborhood.
It's nice.
It's got all the amenities you're looking for. I do think that there are areas of like development that could happen, like places for opportunities, I should say. Places that maybe housing blocks that could be renovated and kind of upgraded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's there. Yeah.
It felt like there was a lot more space, which was really nice. Definitely a lot more greenery, which I really liked. So it was, and local. It was definitely more local feeling. It honestly didn't feel like we were in Lisbon, but I think if you're thinking of like Lisbon as far as like the hills, the crazy tourism, maybe down by the water, the architecture was still obviously like Lisbon, but it didn't quite feel like we were in Lisbon, which I think is it depends. It could be a good or a bad thing depending on what you're looking for. No,
yeah, I agree with that. I think you brought up something which is important. It's flat.
Yes.
Right? It's flat. There are some hills, but in general, it's flat.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Bigger sidewalks. Still old
bigger sidewalks. Tree-lined.
Tree lines, yeah.
Nice, but you do have the calzadas. Yeah.
You still have to watch out for
there's the little stones, like it's not quite cobblestones. I mean, it's cobblestones, but it's like Portuguese-style cobblestones.
Right, and they tend to
get patterns or
and also like they kind of get wedged out of place very easily. So I don't know. So some are raised. You get a lot of level changes, especially I think because of the trees too. You get the roots that kind of push on them, right? So although it's good that you have the trees, you also have that to look out for. But pretty easy walking, especially compared to some other parts of Lisbon. And there was some art too. Like there was pretty art things that were going on different like walls and not fences, but kind of like different areas that I thought was pretty cool for the neighborhood.
Yeah. I don't think that we really scratched the surface on maybe the diversity of food that the neighborhood has. I think that there are probably other neighborhoods that have better diversity of food. And when I say that, I mean like different ethnic foods, like international foods.
Like not just typical Portuguese.
Right.
Yeah, there were a lot of those in cafes.
Yeah, there were some in Benfica. It wasn't like it was just completely absent of it. But if you compare it to other parts of Lisbon, which I believe is a draw for a lot of foreigners that move to Lisbon, is the international food scene can be quite good.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So Benfica maybe lacks a bit in that.
They had some nice cafes though, I would say that. A bit mix of like a Portuguese style, but then maybe a bit more, not modern, but contemporary type cafes. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty good thing that they had there.
Like you're juxtaposing contemporary versus traditional Portuguese cafes.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Just a different look, a different feel, different offerings. That's all. Nothing bad about, one or the other, but just to give you an idea of the difference.
It might have the same coffee. It might have like Delta, Cical, one of the Portuguese brand. In terms of infrastructure with transport, it's decent. The bus system's decent, but it's very walkable. I mean, it's one of those neighborhoods where if you want to have this kind of like 15-minute urbanism, you've got it. You've got all of your daily amenities within 15 minutes of wherever you live in the neighborhood.
I imagine a lot of people there have cars though.
Sure.
It seemed like a bit more of a car culture in that area, which would make sense.
Portuguese have cars.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I think it's obviously a lot harder if you're a lot more central downtown Lisbon to have a car, just because of traffic, one-way streets, parking, all that stuff. Here, you have a little more of that available, more maybe not parking garages, but maybe your apartment building has some sort of parking or something, just a little more accessible. We did see parking spaces and such, so I think it's more doable to have a car here if you want one.
And what about shopping? You feel like it's got the options that you want for shopping?
Well, it's got the big shopping center, and then also has a couple of little markets, the little market around there. So you have the variety. So it's okay. I mean, not bad.
Plenty of grocery stores.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very doable on a day-to-day basis. And like we were saying, if you wanted something different, maybe a bit more hustle and bustle, or if you wanted different types of shops or the different cuisine, really, Lisbon city center area is not that far, easy to get to. So you could definitely be away from it, but be in it when you want to be. So that is nice.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've come to that time where I must ask that question, would you expat that? And essentially I'm asking, would you want to live in Benfica for medium term, like maybe 6 months, a couple years, whatever. Not forever.
Not forever. You know, I think this is one that I could live there, but I probably wouldn't. So if we're going to be in the Lisbon area, there are other neighborhoods that I like better that I would rather live in.
Is it because of this right here?
Yeah, it's just you can't. It feels so wrong. It'd be so weird going there for like concerts and events as well too, right? It just feels so wrong. No, it's really not because of that. It's just I think that there are some other neighborhoods that I found nicer in Lisbon that fit more of what I would want. But if someone was like, you have a free apartment in Benfica, yeah, I could totally live there. So I would say, would you expat that? Probably not. Is that a good enough answer?
Sure.
Yeah, and you?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll slide on probably not as well.
Ah, okay, that's why you'll take it.
No, I think ultimately I could say the answer is no. Here's what I like about it. I like the price. I like the fact that the prices are average or below average certainly below average compared to what downtown Lisbon is. Yeah. But I do think that there are other neighborhoods in Lisbon that I'm more interested in from a I don't know, an architectural standpoint.
Yeah, aesthetic look.
Yeah, just the overall atmosphere of some of the other neighborhoods I prefer to Benfica. I understand why we had a lot of our Portuguese viewers reach out and say like, hey, you need to talk about Benfica. It's a super nice neighborhood. We agree. Yeah. We do agree. And we know that you're not fanboying your club. We know that you have a reason to really like the neighborhood. Just for me personally, I think that there are other neighborhoods of Lisbon that are better for me. Yeah. And if you want to see what some of those neighborhoods might be, you need to check out this playlist right here because it's got the top neighborhoods here in Lisbon. Now, let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.